it's bubbling again. Dr. Solarian at the console, beaker in hand. Andrew's in the lab coat. Samantha sealing the bags. Lab on. Let's go. I don't drip, my LC floods thick sludge. Brewed in the lab where the pressure don't budge. Got the broth on spin, Thor plate torque. Amber glows like a harness, the forge. Spawn rack stacked, yeah, rack to the ceiling. Sawdust base with that deep grain feeling. This ain't your buddy's half-baked mix. This is Elixir, the real lab fix. Elixir on deck, culture gone rogue. Syringe to the bag, now watch it explode. Keep spawning culture, it's more than a phrase. It's a whole lab world that we set ablaze. Sterilize first, don't mess with decay. Unless you breed mold, then...
Guess I gotta add myself to the stage, don't I? What's up, y'all? Glad to see everyone on. I wonder... there. Maybe that'll work. Well, hey, Sam. I'm not Sam. Sam's somewhere. She won't be joining us exactly today. So, we have someone trying to use the code, and it is not working for them. So we got to get that fixed. But, what's up, Exception? What's up, Doug? Everyone else that's joining us. Glad to have you all on. We'll talk about some LC. Reminds me, I need to get that all on deck for you guys. Some videos that I've taken for y'all. And that way I can have ease of use. There we go. Also, I probably need to kill Discord, Steam, and Spotify, huh? I'd say it's eating up some resources here. But, well, I hope everybody's having a good day. I said that before you turned. Oh, gotcha. well, hello. Yeah, it'd be nice to have it. We're trying to get the setup. I've got some cameras and stuff around. She'll be joining us again. Hey, baby, I love you. Hold on a second, guys. All right, folks. Sorry about that. I was back. There was some business we had to get finished before 5. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about liquid culture and mastering it and some of the things that we do here as standard operating procedures to make it easy. This is my bid to get you guys to start growing more genetics and liquid culture premix from me. So, you know, if you guys make more liquid culture, hopefully you have a need for more liquid culture things. Seems like a no-brainer. What's up, Marshall? Glad to have you guys on. Again, stuff is not showing up again. There we go. I'm going to have to manually do it. So much for the beta. Cheers indeed. Well, I've got my trusty mate with me. I'm killing the last of it. Unfortunately, I have no liquid death today, which is very sad. But we'll get into it. Yeah, man. Heck yeah. LC, it's some of my favorite stuff. We're going to allow people to kind of build up a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of early in the day. People are still at work, so I'm not sure how big of an audience we're going to get. But I'm going to give people a few more minutes, so we're just going to kind of talk around a little bit, and then we'll start getting into some of the videos that I can share with y'all. And then we'll allow you guys to ask all the questions and whatnot that you want. We also have a discount code, a 20% discount code for our website that will be presented randomly this episode. So we'll see what we get into there. Samantha is taking packages out to the UPS drop-off. We actually pay them to come pick up here, and they never come pick up here. So we've stopped paying them to come pick up. Not sure what is going on with UPS, but UPS is really losing it. I'm thinking about going with FedEx from now on, because FedEx shows up here 2 or 3 times a day next door with Man-O-War over there. And I figure if Man-O-War is shipping, if they've got those pickups 2 or 3 times a day, then maybe I'll go with FedEx and let FedEx just put our boxes over there on the pallets and they'll get picked up really quick. So who knows? It seems like USPS is doing really well by us, but they went through a really bad slump a while back, and UPS is now, they're actually delivering just fine. Things are going fine through the deliveries for the most part, but getting them to pick up spawn on a timely manner, and that's really all we ship is spawn through them, and it's just getting awful. So I've talked to a few people with FedEx, and FedEx seems like it's actually doing really well. So what's up, Ian? 9:05 here in the UK. Well, past your bedtime, huh? You must be an oldie like me, man. I start winding down around 7 o'clock or something these days. And a buddy of mine started working as a bartender, so now he comes over and he's always been like, because Spam and I used to work second shift, and so he used to always talk about that. And then now here he is being the late nighter, and I'm the up early most of the time. Today I slept in because I did not sleep well at all last night. I don't know if it was something I ate or what, but I had acid reflux like all night. Excuse me, and forgive me for the coughing fits. I still get those occasionally. So, older than dirt. Well, I don't know where that puts you, but I've been told that I am now older than dirt. That is the new thing for me, according to my daughter. I am older than dirt. So just getting started at 3 a.m. Do you wake up early? Do you shift your schedule just so you can be online when the Western world is up, or do you just not sleep ever? Because you're like always on it. And good to have you, man. I guess real quick, let me play around with presenting this. I somehow messed up the order when I transferred these. I don't remember which ones are first, and the order is all out of whack. So, I think I have this one. So let's go into screen share. We'll present. And I'm going to edit stage. And I'm going to remove myself just so we can let you guys play this. But we'll go ahead and start some of the videos that we'll work on. This is just one of them. There we go. Did you say there was no sound? Really? There's no sound through that whole thing? Did I really just play a whole video with no sound? Because that sucks. See, I had sound all the way through it, so let me see if I can figure out what that was. So if I get it on that, yeah, you hear me. Yep, can't hear the video you're playing. Okay, let me figure out what's going on, because we've got videos to share. Now, let's see. I have it on full volume here. All right, so we're going to add this to stage. And why does it not have audio? Can you guys still not hear it? Or you can just hear me? Because I can hear it plain as day. This is... I hate technical difficulties. Okay, still just me. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go back, and I'm just going to have to repeat what I'm saying. All right, so right here, these are the liquid culture tests. That's city water and Dr. Slarian. This is crazy. I can't actually do that. I can't hear myself talk and talk at the same time. So we don't want to stop the screen. We don't want to remove. We go here. Oh my gosh, it just will not allow me to do it, is it? That sucks. Okay, so basically what it comes down to is the first one. I'm going to... Oh, I can mute it. I just talked over it. So what I'm discussing here, that first one on the left is Dr. Slur's city water. The next one was Dr. Slur's RO water. This is another common brand of liquid culture. You guys have been able to hear me this whole time, right? So this is a common liquid culture variety with city water, and then here it is with no city water. It's RO water, and you can see how much clearer that is. It's you can see it goes from darker to lighter. That is that's RO, and one of the more common dextrose is based ones. Whereas this, I have a malt base, but also right here, it's still golden color with the RO water with Dr. Slingers, because we have other nutrition added to it. It's different things will just turn that golden color when they're cooked. So I was just saying that I'm not a huge fan of the clear LCs. I just don't feel like they have the same nutrition that a lot of the more golden color ones do. Might be a setting on a share where you have to share audio. It happens to be at work sometimes. I'm trying to find it, but there's not a lot of options here. So like it's leaving me very little. If I go to the audio tab, I have control of my microphone, my speakers, echo cancellation, noise cancellation, and see, I've got layouts, hotkeys, recording. So it's just for some reason not really allowing me to share the audio. How to share audio? Give me one second, guys. Select your tab, click check share audio, and click share. Okay, so there is no audio tab. That's the thing I'm running into. Like it'll share the window, but not at all allow me access to it. So anyway, so we can just talk liquid culture then, and I'll figure this out at a later point. Hey, Adrian's on with us. What's up, Adrian? We're trying to figure out how to get the liquid culture or videos to actually have sound to them, because I'm trying to share them, screen share them, and they're just not working. I mean, if I put it up there and then remove myself, this doesn't remove my audio. Let me try manually on this one. We're gonna try it one more time, guys. If you guys hear, like, I'm gonna play the video. If you hear the video's audio, let me know in the chat, please. Still no. That is some BS. So I can edit mic settings. Reduce mic volume. This is frustrating. This is very frustrating. I do not like that. I do not like that at all. This is supposed to be an easy to use program. Yeah, that's what I. Okay, hold on. Stop that video file. Okay, let's try this way. I think this might actually work. Looking at the way things are set up. Okay. I just told you to share it. Okay, it's got to preload it. Awesome. I do know sign language, but it's not helping. Fair enough. I want to learn sign language, by the way. I know a few of them, but... All right, so here we're doing a liquid culture test. So this is our Dr. Solarians. This is with city water. This is Dr. Solarians with RO water. And you can see there's still a little bit of sediment, but that's normal. And this is the one with the city. It's got a lot more sediment in it. This is a leading LC premix. That, when I say leading, I mean like one of the more common ones. One of the ones I used to use. And that's it with city water. And then here's the other. Then this is with RO water. And it is clear. And with a little bit of particulates in there, but I'm not a big fan of clear LCs typically because they typically don't have the nutrition that these do. And you notice how this is one of the leading, or one of the leading brands, I guess. And this is Dr. Solarians, and that's the two with RO water. And this is still got the golden color, in part because of the nutrition that we add. It's just going to be golden, even without the city water in it. But that is from our Dr. Solarians. It's our product line that we're doing now, the nutritional premixes. All right. Hey, I'm so glad that we got that to work. So now I think I have this figured out. I can actually start uploading these before I need them. Oh man, that's what it is. They've changed things. That's why it's that way. Haha, we learned something new. All right, so we're going to talk a few different things, but let me go ahead and get all of these preloaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5. And that's what it is they want you to preload up that stuff. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for helping me work through that. That's going to be fantastic because that's going to make things easier in the future. Hey, Micro Nerd, what's going on? Picked up 300 grams. Mike loves it for sure. Yeah, hey, man, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I've sent some out to some companies for trials, and some of them are starting to do wholesale orders because some people have been really, really impressed with it. I know Full Canopy Genetics is they've got their wholesale order now, so they just opened up the case, sent me photos of it. So pretty excited to be getting that stuff out. And we hear me too. The seamless transitions. This works really well. Oh man, I've always I like technology, but it can be really frustrating sometimes. American Sign Language is such a cool language for real. Totally different way of expressing. It's like having a different brain, so it's different. Yeah, I 100% get that. And I started to learn some. I know how to say a couple of different things, in there. I know how to say, like, my name is, and basically that I got to go use the restroom and some stuff. But, I think, no, thank you. And, yeah, there's a lot. I really want it. Like, I've talked to my kids, and I was like, one of the things that would be really cool is to learn American Sign Language. Have you guys, and we could be, if you've got the ability to see each other, you've got the ability to speak to each other. And I don't even mind if my family kind of devolves into its own version. So, Having problems pinning black pearl here, but I think it's just too warm. That is definitely a possibility. If you are warm, black pearl does not perform as well. It has definitely got some, what do you call it? Heat issues, thermal issues. It just doesn't like the heat. It likes it cold. It likes it cold. My ADHD made my brain skip there for a second. Why would you use RO water? It doesn't really have any value. I agree, Ian, but a lot of people do. A lot of people use distilled water. Distilled water has no value. It's just water. You would only use that, in my thought, if you are doing some sort of experiment that requires high amounts of control of what you're feeding your mycelium. But as far as like a high performance mix, like what we sell, which is basically just a get as much biomass without genetic drift as fast as possible. City water works great. City water has all kinds of things in it that are helpful. Now, I do think that it also lowers your carrying capacity of your water to use city water. If you use city water, it's already close to carrying capacity, or it's at least further into it. So if you think of, you have water molecules and they have so many seats on the bus, and your water molecule is the bus, and it can carry so many passengers. And once it's carried that many passengers, it can't carry anymore, and all that stuff precipitates out into the bottom of your jar. So maybe it's to keep from having the precipitate in the bottom, but I don't have a problem with that either. I actually really enjoy having that powder at the bottom. The mushrooms they grab it, they glom onto it, they pick it up. They don't care. So I'm not entirely sure why people get so up in arms about it. But in fact, I had a video that showed that, but I can't seem to find it in my drive. It's probably somewhere, because I basically transferred stuff to a drive, and then from the drive to the computer, and it's probably because it was an older video mixed in with some other videos that make it hard to find. But I agree. RO water is not really that valuable. Neither is distilled, unless you're doing some sort of experimentation or you have some reason to remove those nutrients. But otherwise, RO water has things in it. In fact, that's the thing. When you're making water agar, one of the things they'll tell you is to use distilled or RO water specifically to rob that agar of nutrients for the mycelium to grow. I actually don't necessarily fully agree and on board with that. I've actually am about to release another agar premix, which is a culture cleanup mix, and that is literally a mix that is full of nutrition to support white rot fungi. So it's useful to us. It's not going to necessarily be useful to everybody else out there, but neither is water agar. So, but it will support faster, better growth of the white rot fungus, which will help you outgrow the bacteria while starving the bacteria out in the plates. So it's a mix I'm really excited to get out there. I've got to take some photos and get the UPC code and all that kind of stuff done. So we're slowly working on getting all of these products out, but it is a much slower process than I thought it would be, honestly. Now that I've done it the first time with the LC premix, it made the Spore Kindler easier, which should hopefully make the next one easier. But yeah, I actually prefer the city water. And I learned that working at in the aquaculture business, because a lot of people say that that you don't want to use city water in aquaculture applications, but there's plenty of applications where you can absolutely use city water just fine, even with the chlorine in it. You just don't want to kill your bacterial load. Some premix ingredients just arrived. Mute my phone. Okay, there we go. Will it be available to ship to the UK? Yeah, absolutely. As far as I know, we've been looking at it. We have. This is what's taken so long, is that there are. Okay, so you guys might get a kick out of this, actually. Lo and behold, the government has rules on shipping powders Period. They have legal requirements you have to meet. They don't like people sending little packets of white powder everywhere. So, but that being said, Adrian, I think that we haven't tried to the UK yet for this, but we have worked really hard to make sure that we've met all the mandatory minimums for legal sale across regulatory agencies, right? So, but we were at first, we do those little sample packets, and we were about to ship some of those out, and then we were like, we should just check on legality, you know? And so we did, and we're like, oh, little packets of white or even like off-white powder, especially in little baggies, not a great thing. So we ended up coming up with this because we were sending out sample packs to people. We were making sure that we had like a printout that was stapled to it, QR code on the baggie so people could click on it and see what it actually was. You have to, so while we want to keep our mixes proprietary because we put a lot of work and experimentation and all kinds of time into it, and we want this to be proprietary, you do have to legally give ingredients. It seems obvious, but a lot of people don't think that. So you absolutely want to make sure that you have, I don't know, you know, like you want to make sure that you don't you have any questionable powders being shipped and the police being called on your products. So, you know, it's been fun. I used to frequent a business called Powder City. I don't even know what that would be. You can gas chlorine out if you leave it for 24 hours. Absolutely, yeah, for sure. You can also cook, like it cooks. Well, it depends. Okay, so it depends on what's in there. What is it? Chlorine cooks out fine. Like when you're pressure cooking it, it's pretty much just all gone. But is it chloramines that stick around? I think there is something. My city water doesn't use those that stick around, but even after being cooked. But some cities do, so it's important to actually check that out. What's up, Myco Ogre? That's funny. I always tell my wife that I'm an ogre. Leave us alone. Yeah, exactly. Let us engage in, you know, in business without being messed with, please. No, I get some of the ideas for the rules. I understand why they do some of it. All right, let's try to add do another one of these videos, shall we? This makes me so happy that we figured this out, guys. I think this is the second one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just gonna have to see if this is the next one. All right, so let me see if I can. There we go. But when I got the window, it makes this all dark. You can see how many old LC jars I've got. These are things that are unique to us that I've got to process. And this is a horrible, horrible storage device. You see this? This is my fresh LC up here, but this device is a great mycelial expansion device. It's a great biomass producer. Look how thick that is. Now that thickness is due to our nutrition and the man-o-war stir plates, which we can talk more about later. But this gelatinous goop is our LC. We'll then take that jar, we'll pull all of it. Because like I said, great expansion device, terrible, terrible storage device. But over here, if we come all the way over here, this is our inventory. And if you see our inventory here, say like Rifle Creek, we got all these in here that we pulled. Labels are peeling off a little bit, but this is a great storage device. It is capped, it is sealed. This is basically the Castellini method. This is after the liquid culture has exhausted itself, and it's thick. And let's see. I suppose I should be able to just grab one of these, and then look how thick that is. Now, of course, that thickness is because of our proprietary methods and the nutrition that we use combined with the agitation. We'll talk about agitation in a minute, but that is our storage device. So this is inventory, and our inventory allows us, as long as it's, you can see like some things we still got to pull and some things we have in stock, and that stuff, as long as we've got it in stock, we can pull it and ship it, and it works great. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. The storage bothered me for a long time too, because those filters eventually fail. All filters fail. That's a saying we have around here now, is all filters fail. It's just a matter of time. 99.9% filtration is not 100%. So eventually that failure is going to affect something. So yeah, exactly. The syringes are better than the quart jars, primarily because they're closed off. Castellini method is just storing tissue in basically a liquid devoid of nutrients. If the mycelium has already gone through and consumed all the nutrients in your liquid culture broth, then you can store them in the syringes and cap them off and leave them there for a long time. Yeah, you can do room temp. So I have some in the refrigerators as well, and you won't see the refrigerator storage in this in the series of videos I have today, but I can show you later. But we do have others stored in another section that are made for rapid expansion for our own use. But we store it in room temperature all the time. People store stuff in the Castellini method all the time. I've used syringes that are 2-3 years old, and they work great. So it's a great storage method for fungus, and the capping up the syringes just makes it easy. And I haven't shown this yet, but I'm going to show how to use the peristaltic pump to mass produce, pool liquid culture. I've got a great simplistic method for that, and it makes it so easy. And you can just pull a quart jar in. I think Samantha and I pulled a gallon of liquid culture and syringed it and capped it, labeled it. And it took us maybe 30 minutes to do a full gallon of liquid culture at this point. So we're really able to mass produce these things well. So our liquid culture is getting thicker, it's getting faster, and it's getting where we can pull it with lower and lower and lower amounts of labor. So I do plan to show that, but I've got a video I'm working on for all that. So, and it requires me to set up things and show everything. So I don't have that available for today, but we'll absolutely go into it later. I've been showing every mentorship that we teach. I've been showing this method. So yeah, an LC jar is a team. Absolutely. It's just a matter of when. Castellini, I'm going to put it in the chat here. Actually, hold on 1 second. So, I knew it. I knew it was a second I, not a E. But I second guessed myself. Right there in chat. That's how you spell it. It's an Italian from like 1923. It's a way of storing funguses, molds. You can store spores in it. So for the psilocybin guys who are doing spores, this is what a spore syringe is. You can absolutely store stuff. I have koji spores, and it leaves them hydrated, so they don't dry out. You're very welcome, Adrian. There you go, guys. That's how you. Nope. I'm sorry. That is not how you spell it. That is how you spell it. When I copy and pasted, I must have somehow missed the last I. That's how you spell it there. That is the correct version, not the other way. So, and you're very welcome. It's a great method. I've had people send stuff in. I just pulled a pink oyster that someone sent me. I'll have to look at my notes because so much stuff is all over the place that I don't know what everything is anymore. They called it the red band Jamor pink oyster. And that one I just pulled from Castellini storage vial that they sent me, and it's worked out really well. It took off immediately. People talk, like I've had it for over a year. People just talk about how I was not sold on it, guys. I was not sold on the Castellini method at all. I was really, really kind of against it and thinking that slants were all. And for what we work with, molds and fungus, it seems to be a great method. I can't promise or anything else. I do wonder how it would work with seeds. If you took seeds and you did your sterile wash of them, 30-second isopropyl wash, 70% isopropyl wash for 30 seconds, and then a bleach wash for about 5 minutes, depending on what type of seed. And then you do a sterile water rinse. And then if you stored those and capped them, would that keep seeds from drying out? Would that keep, some of these specialty seeds from drying out and getting too hard? It does make me wonder if there might be other things that this could work for. Now, that said, plants don't really do the stasis thing as well as fungus, but it doesn't mean that we can't do it, because I know that we can put plants in stasis and do them in the synthetic seeds, where you basically resin cast seeds. It's not really resin. It's I forgot what it's called, but you basically resin cast seeds, and then you can long-term store them and then pull them out later as clones. So, it's got precedent in a way, especially if you've robbed it of oxygen. So the more seeds that the more spores and things like that and tissue that you can get into a small, and that's another thing, is you can store them in vials. So I've got people that will send me a centrifuge tube, what I use for a slant, with deep nutrition through it. And then they will send me one of those. Everyman Bio brought me a slant tube that was just full of little microcentrifuge tubes full of sterile water and whatever culture was in them. And it was a great way. Now, I don't know if it's going to work across all species, but at least the common things like oysters and hericiums and most things that I've been working with, even spalting fungi, which can be weird, has grown in really, really well. I haven't tried any actives because, guys, I don't really mess with actives. I don't really do a lot of that. I respect the work. I just don't. East Tennessee, that kind of thing. There's no point in me taking the risk of growing them, because I know so many people, if I ever wanted them, I could get them. Though I am interested in the genetics. Stop that. Teddy, that's enough. What are you barking at? That's my doorbell. It's an overactive doorbell is what it is. So let's go on to the next video. And okay, so I mentioned agitation, and I want to just show something. Here's a liquid culture, in which this does have a mat, but you can see how thick that is. That is some thick LC. That is proper nutrition and proper agitation. So let's talk agitation. These are the Man O' War stir plates. You see here, I'm gonna put this on, and then I'm gonna turn this Man O' War stir plate on. Make sure, come on. You can't see it very well. I can see it here, that it's starting to move, and that's going to take a second, so I'm going to ramp the speed up. There, you see it starting to pull down. And then what I'll do is I'll just forget about this and come back to it. And it will be, this is a young culture here, already getting very thick. This is our, what is this? Beach Blue. Oh, that's our Beach Blue cross. Oh! It's the one we call single blue, and that's going out to the strain tester network. But you have these little, you see the pellicle there? Oh, it just got sucked down. I guess I agitated enough. Look at that, it is ripping that pellicle apart. And it will pull it into just a fine little mash. Here is this is the Australian pink, and the stuff on the sidewalls is the bigger chunks there. But you can see how thick that's getting as well. Light won't even go through it. This is proper agitation. I like this better than bubblers. I like this better than any stir plate I've ever come across. Every other stir plate I've ever come across has been trash compared to these. Don't mind my windowsill. I do need to get back there and clean that. Oh, almost dumped the jar. Filming's a little hard while you're trying to do that. So there you go. I don't even have that on full power. That one I do have on full power. This one, I mean, look at that. That's a 10-liter vessel. And I wonder if I can get... That's Microsium. And then I've got some BS26 in this one. It's a 5-liter. Nice and thick. So these Man of War stir plates are absolutely what I love for agitation. You're going to get the best results with proper nutrition with agitation. If you want fast like if you're doing this for production, you need a high performance nutrient mix and stir plate, in my opinion. It is the best way to go. Bubblers are amazing, but bubblers, I have played around with a bunch of them that have, kind of copied my design, and they, which is a copy of an algae farm design, but they just, it's higher contamination risk. Even when you have the contamination down, you get high amounts of genetic drift. I do not get the same problems. I turned that down actually a little bit with these stir plates. So proper agitation, proper nutrition, and then combined with proper genetics will get you the best growth. But even crappy genetics will perform better with proper agitation, proper nutrition. And again, I consider this proper nutrition, though I have a basic premix that you can make yourself on one of my videos, so we can talk about that as well. Why does it keep putting me in a corner? Nobody puts Andrew in a corner. It's not cool. Hello, be careful with bleach alcohol mix. It produces chloroform, which is very toxic to us too. Seed sterilization with only bleach seems to work. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can. I work in a high filtered air environment. I have done the bleach washes by themselves. I like the alcohol first and then the bleach. I drain the alcohol off the seeds and strain them and then do a bleach. So the amount of chloroform I'm producing would be minor, and it's not really coming into my breathing area. So, but I appreciate the concern for sure. Then that is something that should be said, I guess. I shouldn't just say, oh yeah, do alcohol wash and then bleach wash. Like, nah, you got to take precautions doing that kind of stuff. Don't ever mix chemicals without reading about the mixture of the chemicals, guys. These LCs look sick, though, thick and homogeneous. Yeah, thank you. It's taken me a lot of work, a lot of years to really get things dialed down to where I have an SOP that just consistently produces this really nice, thick LC. We're actually really, really happy with the results. So every new LC that's been produced here is going out nice and thick and pulled. So sorry, back again now. I had to say goodnight to my granddad. Do not be sorry. Grandkids, this live stream will be on here later. Like, the grandkids are more important. Real life comes first, guys. Mushrooms are there to support real life. They're there for our spiritual, physical, financial, everything else, ecological health. Right? And if they take away from any of those, then they're not really serving us. So I'm with you. Go say, spend time with the granddaughter first. Absolutely. And that we were talking about agitation. Actually, Ben stepped in here during that video and talked to me for a minute. And one of the things, when we were just talking about like day-to-day business, we were talking about trash pickups and stuff because the dumpster's been getting a little bit more full. And so we now, because there's a new tenant at the end and they've thrown stuff in there. And then there's us, of course, that does and business is picked up for us, which means that we have more trash. And then business for Man of War as required, some use of the trash can. So we're going to, I think, twice a month pickup. Not that that's important to you guys, but that's what we were discussing. And he had to go, so he couldn't stay on and say hi to you guys. But he's the one that makes the Man of War stir plates and the bag shakers, which if you go check out my Instagram, you'll see a bag shaker video. If you're doing 5-pound bags, I can shake 2 5-pound bags at a time, and it's super cool because it removes all that. So The Manowar guys are doing some really cool stuff. They have the most affordable and fastest bagger on the marketplace. They have the best bag shaker, as far as I know, because there aren't that many mass-produced bag shakers. And I do not understand. He said that the bag shaker is not sold that well. I don't understand that at all, because I legitimately have gone down to one person can do lab work now and mass-produce spawn bags with one person in the lab. I don't have to have and I don't have to shake a bag. I never shake a bag. It's amazing. But the stir plates are the best value in my opinion, because those things, anyone who's doing liquid culture, it's just killing it. And that's something that I've worked for a long time. Is like I've used crappy stir plates from Amazon. I've bought super expensive ones from scientific supply places. We've done all kinds of them, and the best ones are always our homemade ones that Ben would make for us. And now he's found a way to just actually mass produce those. So it's worked out even better. But that agitation is really important. I think that's why the aeration works so well, is because it's a good form of agitation. It's almost like a gentle shearing, I guess, for the mycelium. Plus, it oxygenated the water, which is really less important than getting the CO2 out of the water. But he has done a good job of building something that it's more expensive than the crappy plates, but it's lasted longer and done a lot more work. So mycology is such a niche industry in the UK that we have very limited supply of equipment. I can imagine. I mean, it's still niche here. So even though business is up for a lot of people, there's more and more people getting into the business, which is good. But some people don't get into the business and build their own niche in it. They just come in and try to strong arm or price war other people out. So it's, it's just a different strategy, I guess. A lot of those people don't last forever. I've seen some of those guys starting to struggle or shut down even. So you can tell kind of the people who are in it authentically and the people who are in it just as a cash grab. And the truth is that it is still niche in the United States, even though it is growing at a huge rate. So it is absolutely becoming its own industry, and specialty equipment, thankfully, in the United States is very viable, but we're a lot bigger than the UK. I mean, you guys are like a single state size compared to, we got the 50 states to work with, let alone some of the international stuff that's going on. So, and sales, but huge problem with cheap, crappy ELC suppliers. There's a lot of that. There's a glut of cheap, crappy LCs out there. People, we're here in a minute. We're going to go through how we quality control our liquid culture. So, and I know most people do not do this with their bioreactors. And a lot of people just store in their LCs, which means that the chance is higher and higher and higher. Speaking of FedEx, the chances are higher and higher and higher that you're going to get contaminated. Like if your jar is half pulled and then a mold spore lands in there through the air filter, like as you're drawing syringes or something, or just because it's sitting there, or let's say a mouse crawls all over the tops of your jars on your shelf and drags its dirty little balls all over your filter and then pees on it and leaves bacteria in there. That bacteria can grow through the filter to the other side, or mold can, and then sporulate on the other side. There's ways that those filters will fail that are beyond just the normal wear and tear. And if you get something in there at half full, then all those syringes afterwards are done. So I got most of mine from a company, eSupply, I believe. There's a couple of companies that I have worked with that we have sold LC to. I will say that now we finally figured out how to protect our strains. So anytime people buy from our website now, they have to agree to not resell our strains without written permission from us. So they have to come to us for that, or to work with it in certain, like there are permissions for, you can use this to produce mushrooms, etc., value added. But if you're trying to produce spawn, whatever, we need you to come to us. So we're actually going to be releasing strains at a much faster rate now because we have those protections. And that's going to be super cool. And so the companies that we'll be supplying with will be leasing strains to people. And so that's one of the exciting things that we've got going. So I'm hoping to see a lot more of our supply going out there, because we'll have a standard SOP and partners that we will work with to grow out our strains and sell them in exchange for the leasing of the developments of the strains that we've done. So let's see. Let's go to the third here. So one of the things I want to show with the proper nutrition ideal is the production of secondary metabolites. In spalting cultures, this can be seen as the coloring of the wood. So look at this. This is liquid culture. This is our Dr. Solarians. And this... Man, how can we get this where you guys can kind of see through it? That's not contamination. That is green elf cup. And this thing is a very slow growing species. It's very slow growing. In the woods it takes forever. But with the proper care, even slow cultures through liquid culture, this is the beauty of liquid culture, is that... I'm going to have to get the light. It's too dark over there. So with grain spawn, if I was to go from agar, I'd have almost no growth, because it could take months. How do I get this where you guys can see? You guys can see that growth. Untrained eye, it would be contamination, right? Because it's green. But that is just the green elf cup sprayed in there. Now granted, these bags, today is like 2/11/25. These are made on day 1/81/25. That's a long time, for sure. But you wouldn't have anywhere near this growth without it. Now check this out. This bag was a liquid culture inoculated, and then this is my symbol for shaking, so I shook that immediately. This one was sprayed in and then just allowed to develop around the edges of the bag. And I actually think this method worked better. You can see you get a lot more growth. But you're also getting good spalting coloration even on the grain. And again, that's the same date, 1/81/25. So, and I only cover that because spalting is secondary metabolites. So if you're trying to produce extracts are typically secondary metabolites. Oh, I've tore up my light. We'll fix that later. All right, so I cut myself off the screen again. I've got to learn these buttons a little better. So yeah, I mean that goes into the agitation and the nutrient mix there. So, and yeah, we absolutely need to protect ourselves. Hold on a second, the dog, Teddy. It's Mama's home. She'll be in the door in a second. You got to stop. Hey. Oh. Sorry. I tossed a pin at him and he yelped like I'd killed him. But yeah, as far as like the protections go, you know, that is something that we've had to really think about, because we've started. I'll take like last weekend or last week during the live stream, I showed you guys. I think I showed you guys on Renegade Mushroom did a like our BS26 versus a couple other blue oyster strains. Did a showdown and BS26 was his favorite. And then people had gotten on there on comments, and there were, I don't know, 2 or 3 people at least that were like, hey, you got to try out Mushroom Mesa's King Blue strain. Hey, you've got to try out, I don't know what it was, Spore and Sprouts King Blue oyster. So the King Blue was offered like 2 or 3 times as like, hey, a strain you got to try. And I'm like, well, wait, hold on. Like, that wasn't Mushroom Mike's King Blue or Spore and Sprouts. That was my King Blue. Right. And so now I've got all these people selling the strain that I developed, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But if I'm going to put in all this work and then, you know, I'll make a few $100s off the strain, And then other people start selling it, and now there's thousands being made on the strain that I developed that I'm not getting in. Why should I even start to develop strains? So it's not, and I'm not even trying to be pouty about it. It's just like, in business, we have to go to where we're being rewarded. Because this is ultimately about feeding my family. So if developing strains is a valuable service to the community, but selling it and then not even either crediting it or whatever. And I'm not trying to blame Spore Sprout or Mushroom Mike or Mushroom Mesa. I like Mushroom Mesa. I haven't really watched much of Spore Sprout stuff, but from what I've seen, it seems pretty legit. So I'm not even trying to poo-poo on those people specifically or anything like that. I'm just saying the way the marketplace goes, like, yeah, I do think that protection is important of the intellectual property, because I put a lot of work into it. I put a lot of work, I put money, I put time. And then if I can't turn that time into reward for for my family, it's not worth doing. So, it's just the way it goes. What's up, Jesse? Not a bot. It's an amazing idea. So you were sequencing them. So if you suspect someone is selling your LC, you can test it. Yes, that is part of the process, is building a library of sequences. That's actually in the terms and conditions, is that people are not allowed to sequence our strains without permission, and genetically manipulate, breed with, or and again, it's not so I can gatekeep. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper. I'm just trying to find a way to either build reputation or finances from this, right? Because reputation turns into finances, but we're just starting to see a lot of people like take King Blue and just, oh, it's ours, it's ours. And there are people that credit us. I mean, Main Cap and Stim credits ours on theirs, and so I feel like other people could as well. But you're seeing this a lot. Ed Grand was actually talking about this not too long ago. I think it was Ed, where he was like, or maybe it was, I'm going to redact that. I don't actually remember who it was, but they were talking about how, you can't just take the strain and just go, oh, now it's a Jack Frost or, whatever. This is not, you've got to actually put the time and the work into it, or I guess you don't have to, because there's not legal requirements to, but it seems like to get the reputation you would. Going to bed late here in France. I should have a new Petri dish tomorrow. I'll start a new cultures this weekend. Contact you when everything's good and clean. Good job on the Chlorospora. Thank you. I appreciate that. Have a good night, man. It is the other side of the world. Hello, good day to you. Can you briefly explain why there is shiitake that produce fruit on blocks that's still white and covered in mycelium, not brown blocks? I pretty often see on Instagram. Usually it's not white mycelium that these shiitakes are covered in. It's I guess it is mycelium, but it's like the shiitake hair. Some strains, there's some called, I think, Snowcap. Snowcap is very tufty. It's got the white tufts on top of the mycelium. And so that is that's a thing. So yeah, they will produce. Some strains are lighter than others. Some are white and woolly and hairy. Some are brown and hairy. Some are not hairy but slick with tiny little white speckles that are the remnants of the tufts. That's just a normal. It's just a phenotypic thing. Shiitake is actually very phenotypically diverse, and we don't get to see a ton of it in the indoor grown, which is something I'm hoping to change in the next couple of years. So, is it just the strain that goes faster to fruiting stage? Some of them. I don't actually, so shiitake is not my specialty. I would say, if I have a specialty, it'd be oysters is probably the most specialty I have. Though I'm probably more of a generalist than any sort of specialist, but some of the strains that I found that are faster to fruit tend to be very slick and not hairy at all. And some of the best strains for eating I've come across tend to be very woolly, but grown on logs. So I couldn't tell you for sure, but it's been my experience. Everything we sell of yours is sold as yours. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate it. I don't remember the name of your company, but I know that you and I have had a good relationship for a long time. So anytime I complain about this stuff, and there are exceptions. There are plenty of exceptions. And I'm not saying that everyone in this industry, but it is the mushroom industry where it's the Wild West still. It's still very fringe, very pioneering. you see a lot of scammers go to it, a lot of scammers. And the mushroom, in fact, I was talking to someone today about that, about the mushroom industry is in flux right now. There's a lot of change, and a lot of shifting, a lot of investments that are not paying off. Some investments are paying off. There's a lot of things that are, you know, like there's been times, like, especially through my medical crisis, I was barely hanging on by the skin of my teeth. It's taken a little while for us to bounce back from that and really build the business back from Samantha being the only one capable of doing anything while I was down. So, but there's just a lot of change and a lot of things going on, and we want to make sure that the scammers that we stay away as much as possible. I wonder if Edward Grant had any luck incorporating Orbeez. I don't really know. If he did, I have used water crystals before, which are basically the same thing. I'm very interested in the wood pulp crystals because those would actually break down from the fungus. But I have absolutely used like the diaper crystals. The name escapes me. Polyacrylamide, I think. Orbeez might be. Whatever. What's the chemical structure of Orbeez? I can't remember now, but polyacrylate. Okay. Yeah. Well, it starts off poly, so it's a polymer. Sodium polyacrylate. So I don't see why you wouldn't have, like, we did water crystals, and Microsium loved them. Like, we started getting second, third, fourth flushes that were just enormous. Even the first flush was, in fact, I know some people that run those for their Microsium bags. They would not want their name said, but they run that as the standard, and they're what was like normally a 10 or 12 pound sized bag with the water crystals and the extra water turns out to be like an 18-pound bag, or something like that. And then your first flush will be like 6 pounds of Microsium. So it's worth a little scoop of powder. Actually, there's a really good way they showed me of incorporating those, which is to 1 ounce of crystals to 28 pounds of water in a 5-gallon bucket, and then it'll expand. And again, I'm really interested in the wood pulp crystals. They hold a little less water, but they will actually break down, and then you don't have. Some people have concerns about polyacrylamide, even though we consider it safe enough in our society that we put it on our babies' butts and allow our babies to be around it. And I suggest that you use gardener food grade, not the petroleum grade, because the petroleum grade will have. I think it's just acrylamide instead of polyacrylamide. It'd be the acrylamide, and acrylamide is a neurotoxin. Polyacrylamide is pretty stable, so I don't know. There's a lot to it, but Orbeez are interesting for sure. Absolutely should protect what you have worked hard on. What about looking into custom genetic markers you can add? So we've looked into this somewhat. For the most part, just having the agreement and the sequences has been the most important thing. So far, that seems to be the best protection thus far. So, and of course, there's protections are not perfect, but it does give us one more step, one more tool in our belt to watch over what we've got. In fact, we're starting to look into, and I'm holding back certain strains for licensing. Strains that are really, 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 really doing well and high performance for us. And these strains will be slated for licensing agreements to people wanting to do ready to fruit blocks, spawn, etc. But then part of our agreement is that their customers also sign an agreement with them, which protects their license. I mean, if people are paying me to lease a strain every year, they need to protect their own. So we're helping people. We're suggesting people do that. And then for certain things, we might even require it before we'd sell to that. So, hey, he said it was just a mess in the end, so he stopped trying to use them. He didn't care for the structure of the sub. Yeah, that was my experience with water crystals. Is you still want like the sawdust and the soy and or the sawdust and the oats and that kind of thing. You want something with structure because otherwise it's just a soupy mess. So there's there's some super fun advancements being made on a lot of stuff. Real quick, guys, we're gonna just, I mean, we're about an hour in, so save 20% everything on our site with code LIQUID. This week's code is code LIQUID. Save 20% off. That will stack with your thank you code. So if you've already ordered from us and you have a thank you code for 15% off, you can get 35% off stuff. And I'll even include that on the mentorships. So if you guys want that on the mentorships, now you will have to contact me, but I will honor those on that kind of thing. So 20% off just for hanging out with me, guys. Use it. Get you some LC premix. That stuff is fantastic, as you've seen. Speaking of, I actually haven't done a what sponsorship just yet, and I need a tinkle. So one sec. Imagine a world where the most unique, rare, and powerful mushroom strains are preserved, studied, and shared with growers like you. That's exactly what we're building with the Microsium, a living archive of fungal biodiversity, sourced from the wild, expanded in the lab, and made available for researchers, growers, and curious minds alike. But here's the best part. You can be a part of it. If you're a bioprospector, a forager, or just someone who loves finding cool mushrooms in the wild, you can send in your samples. If you send me in a wild mushroom and I can successfully clone it, I'll send you back a cleaned up culture of it. If you send me a culture that you've already cleaned up yourself, I'll send you one for our library, ready to grow, experiment with, or add to your collection. That's right. Culture for culture. You help expand the library, and you get something amazing in return. The goal? To preserve fungal diversity, to give people access to new genetics, and maybe, just maybe, to discover something truly groundbreaking. So if you've got an interesting mushroom, a rare find, or a strain that deserves a place in the archives, send it in. Let's build something incredible together. The Microsium, preserving fungal biodiversity, one culture at a time. Want to learn more? Hit us up, shoot us a message, and let's keep spawning culture, y'all. Welcome back to my presence, y'all. I bet you're honored to be here. They do that with plants already, i.e. proven winners. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Certain things Samantha and I are really looking into it. We had a Dr. Oman come by from North Carolina's A&T College. In fact, I need to get over there to their school. There's been a lot of stuff going on in between, but somebody did a mentorship of mine is now getting his master's over there with Dr. Oman. So they came by, and he told us, he sat down with us at lunch and really talked to us about strain protections. He's like, how do you protect your strains? I was like, oh, well, I'll put them in slants. And he's like, no. How do you protect your strains in your work? And I was like, I don't. And he went, oh, no. Like, it was just like, ooh, yeah. So he talked to me a lot about it and got me pointed in the right direction. And then I got sick, so I had to stop working on some of that stuff for a little while. But we're back to it, and now we're actually actively testing, releasing, doing the proper legal documentation of all of this, and it's making a huge difference. By the way, this is my first live stream attending. Love you guys. And hey, Amber, welcome for your first time. Glad to have you. Speaking of, I don't know if you guys didn't get to see this last week or not, but I've been playing around with AI.
People ask all the time, can you eat these mushrooms raw? The answer is yes.
Please don't eat mushrooms raw. I don't know why it said that, but it even gave me the Yeti and Sasquatch voices from the AI stuff. I think it's fantastic. Ugh, did you see that? Look at that. I've been lifting weights and I'm losing weight, and so I'm getting these little flabby flabs. Well, guys, I used to be young and beautiful. Now I'm just old and beautiful. I'll have to go back to the beginning. Yeah, we had some. It's a good live stream. You should definitely go back and watch the full thing, for sure. Let's see. What's up, guys? Or Collier. Let's go back to one more video. The next one. If you're wondering how we go from plate to liquid culture, I have 2 different videos on how to do this. One is called the needle biopsy. So you can do Mossy Creek Mushrooms needle biopsy. There's also one that we call the bullnose biopsy, which covers how to make these bioreactor lids, but also using, with no needle, just a syringe, how to take this, use the syringe as the biopsy tool, and then just bloop it right in there. And I think this one was made, yeah, right here. This one was made. That's my symbol right there for biopsy. So this is Madron bald hericium number 2, so it's up there near that area. And needle, not a needle biopsy, but a biopsy right there. That would have been bullnose, because with this kind of lid, I use the bullnose biopsy. So I have videos on both of those to cover. Now, as far as secondary metabolites, one of the things I'm hoping and I'm wanting to play with is the bioluminescence. I'm about to do some bioluminescence breeding trials, but I also want to see if the proper nutrition can help me boost the production of luciferin, which is the bioluminescent molecule. Now, what I think is that an aerated setup would probably be better for the bioluminescence, but we'll get into bioluminescence another day after I've done experiments. Yeah, there we go. So, oh, there goes a child. You're fine. Nobody's gonna worry about it. No to the AI. Yeah, that was. I thought it was pretty good. Like I was like, man, it's creepy, but it's actually pretty good. Brody, that little Brody didn't realize he was on air. The forbidden apple juice. You talking about my LC premix? Oh yeah. I don't know if you saw the LC premix controversy on my Instagram. Apparently, someone who has a supplement company believes that you should not supplement your mushrooms because supplements don't do anything. So, you know, I guess that's a thing. Fancy glow in the dark. Yeah, I want to do some bioluminescence trials. I actually have thought about trying to do the gene importation through some genetic engineering. That said, I am not anywhere close to it. Hey guys, I've got a mic here that's active. So, anyways, but the Panillus stypticus is what I want to do is see if you can selectively breed for ever brighter and brighter. I figure that outside there's an evolutionary cap to how useful bioluminescence is. So there probably are wild strains that tend to do more of it, but maybe they waste more energy doing it than what was actually evolutionarily, smart for them in the wild. So can we push, or what is the physical cap here? Like, is there a point where we just cannot push bioluminescence any further? But of course, bioluminescence is affected in large part by the air flowing through it. So I'm thinking like this lava lamp style bioluminescence liquid culture, just going and going and going. So no, I missed it. Why wouldn't you supplement mushrooms? I don't know. This guy, like, he really, like, it wasn't even a post about people should buy my liquid culture premix. It was literally a raw post of, I'm just really proud that the work that I've done, Samantha did the all the packaging, I did all of the designing of the liquid culture work. Samantha was able to put it together in a thing. We were able to get a wholesale account. This was our first wholesale account we were sending out to. I was just really proud of us for, having faced sickness and health and all that kind of thing together. And it was literally just a post about how we were rocking it and how I was proud of us. And this guy literally, he just got on. The first thing he said was pure retardium, which already, is just coming out the gate wonderful. In fact, I can't find it because either his account was removed or he blocked me or something. If you go to my Instagram account, Mossy Creek Mushrooms, you will see I did post it because I was just like, I'm sick of this shit. Like, people don't realize how much negative stuff as an online retailer we deal with. Like, it's a lot. Yeah, Samantha's over there nodding. Like, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it makes us want to just, sometimes we just face it and it's just like, man, we just, sometimes we just want to burn it down to the ground. That's what Samantha said. Like, it's just, sometimes it's just like, why? But this guy, what's funny is his company name was WAS Supplements, WAS Supplements, just one word, WAS Supplements. And I went and checked him out, and I was like, he's on his website and all this other stuff. He's talking about, for proper nutrition. They're selling mushroom supplements for dogs. So we need proper nutrition for our dogs. We need proper nutrition for our cows, rabbits, chickens, goats, everything else we eat. And for our plants, but not mushrooms. Like proper nutrition is, and his big thing was like, he's like, I can't malt yeast agar. He's like, I just use malt yeast agar, and that's enough. And I was like, no one ever said that it wasn't enough. Like, people grow on that all the time, but that's not what I'm trying to design. I'm trying to design a high performance mix. Like, that's it's not like, yeah, soda pop is calories. And I said soda pop specifically for you people, because here I would have just called it Coke. But you can drink it and it provides calories. Does it provide everything you need to live the best life you can? Probably not. So I appreciate that, Brittany. I do. And I don't think that we deserve it. Sometimes I mess up. I get it. Sometimes people count on me. Sometimes we're late. Sometimes we have a contaminated syringe or a spawn bag. Sometimes if you're not getting that stuff, anytime you grow at scale, you're going to have mix-ups. And so, I'll own every bit of stuff that's mine. But as Samantha and I talked about a while back, I am so willing to fire a customer now. I just recently fired a customer. He just emailed me again too, which is hilarious. I literally told him not to contact me again, and then he emailed me just to call me a bitch and a bunch of other stuff. A fuckwit. That was a fuckwit and a bitch. And it was literally, pardon my language, folks. I'm sorry if you got kids in there, but we are past an hour into this, so. But he's just sitting there calling me names, and then he's like, "See, your replacement's growing fine," and I'm like, "So you got your replacement, and it's growing fine. You got your replacement, it's growing fine. All Samantha did was try to help you." And the reason why I fired him is because he literally blessed Samantha out. He was just so rude to her. And I'm not going to take that shit anymore. You guys aren't, not you guys. You guys are great. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not going to do it. Oh, yeah, Fanta AR. There you go. Yeah, Fanta. That's the way it goes. So sometimes what? Sometimes it is as simple as trying again. Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you're in agriculture or if you're growing living things at all, there's just things. Things go wrong sometimes with living things. It's a live process. Things always go wrong. It's absolutely. That's exactly what I was just saying. Yeah. It is interesting, and people can be really just absolutely mean. And then there are people, like there's a person, Samantha just let me know that they just ordered again. They have ordered from us 3 times. And every time they have ordered and then gotten the product and then canceled the order and told PayPal that they never got the product. So then they would get refunded. And this has happened 3 times. So this time we were like, you know what? Samantha's like, well, do we let him order, or do we, like, he just ordered, do we put the money back? Or I was like, no, because this time we have terms and conditions where you agree to no refunds on living product on our website. We do replacements. We don't do refunds, except in very extenuating circumstances. But, if I've really messed up, I'm going to give you a refund, of course. But if I've sent you something, it's live, and, that kind of, like, it gets weird. I didn't mean to make this a bitch session. So, Michael, you're never late. You just arrive when you arrive. It's always on time. It's just a different time. As I've gotten older, I've become more and more less and less tolerant of that type of stuff from customers. You have to. You absolutely have to. This is something Samantha watches this girl named Catnip, and she's talking about the same thing. And she's in a completely different industry. Like, she literally designs stuff for printing stickers and stationery and things like that, I think. And like she's talking about the same thing. Like it's just, I don't know what's going on in the world, but there's a lot of hurt people out there, or just a lot of rude people. So be willing to fire customers. I'll tell you that, yeah, I took a financial hit when I started firing customers, but now I'm recovering from that financial hit, and oh my gosh, every day is a better and better day. It's incredible. Let's get to the next video here. All right, so one of the things that we have to do is test liquid cultures. So right here is our rack. Samantha's working on it right now. These are all strains that are being tested. Once they test clean, they get moved into our backups. And then every time we pull a reactor, so let's, yeah, there's Samantha's already got it for me. Every time we pull a reactor, we end up pulling 4 syringes. What is it? First, last, and then 2 from the middle of our pools?
Now, our first draw goes into petri dishes.
That's right.
Then we draw 4 backups that will go on top there. That way, once it comes out clean and we see that the first pool was completely viable, then you can use these 4 syringes on the top.
Right. So these, we've spread the first syringe gets a little liquid culture, goes in here. Look, you can see that one is clean and fruiting, but
I'm not wearing gloves. I'm sorry.
well, you're all right.
This one is just being banked and tested.
Yeah. So these are not, these petri dishes are not for use. These are just to prove that it's clean. And then we have these pulled as backups. So if something happens to one of the bioreactors and it goes bad, whether I open it up to contamination during a pool or something, these backups mean I can just go to another jar immediately and just bloop, and there we have it going really quickly again.
And you can use this.
You could.
For cleanup, needle biopsies and such. But here's the first pool. You see it there. First pool. This is the date that we did it. This traces back to the jar itself. So this shows the jar before it was a needle biopsy on day 0/8/3/2022. This is the Christmas Zirkle oyster. It was found at Christmas time by someone whose last name was Zirkle.
No, actually it was by Ben. It was found on Zirkle Road here in town.
Oh, okay. Well,
on
again,
Christmas Day.
Super creative, the GPS tags. And then this jar matches, so 31322, here's the 313. I put AR, this is Andrew's symbol. So there's a total traceability here. It also lets me know that there's 1 of 2 plates made, just in case one goes bad. Both of these came out beautifully, nice and clean, gorgeous. And then I can use this syringe for something else if I need to, or Andrew could work with these plates.
Like I said, these syringes make great backups because they basically act as Castellini culture. So once it's proven clean and they've exhausted their nutrients, they just sit there in stasis. And I've used syringes that are 2 or 3 years old that work out really well. Another thing for cleaning up, or for culture quality control, of course I've moved my stacks, is what we do is we'll take like an empty plate and we'll just pour a little liquid culture into it, and then we just give it a little sniff. It smells good, like oyster mushrooms. Or if it smells like a dirty diaper, that is bad. That's bacteria. If it smells like a bakery, brewery, anything like that, pizza parlor, then that tends to be yeast. And then mycelium usually takes on the smell, oftentimes what the mushroom is like, but not always. It just kind of depends. The older oyster mushroom mycelium sits there, the sweeter it starts to smell, that kind of thing. So there's that. And then we use our microscope. Whenever I pour the sniff test, I put a couple of drops on a slide, just like this right here. Put a cover slip on it. And then I put my camera, my DSLR, you can see it right here. I put it on the trinocular head, and then I connect it via a HDMI to HDMI mini to the camera, and then I can use the TV as my screen for the microscope. So every time we pull a reactor for selling cultures, we check it under the microscope, we do a sniff test, we do the liquid culture test to the plates, then we store our backups, and then it always goes to grain. Well, that's not liquid culture, that's agar. It's just a full plate. This is turkey tail, but I love the way turkey tail smells. It's so fruity. But the grain spawn, like pure grain spawns, are masters. That goes to our super spawn set up here, which can either be fruited in our grow room or sent out to use as spawn for log outdoor bed culture or even indoor culture. I mean, it's used primarily for the indoor spawn process, but that's pretty much it on the quality control. It goes through a pretty extensive process compared to most companies. And of course, if you ever do have a problem, you can always just tell us and we'll send you a replacement for free. That's one of the reasons why we price where we price. It's because we go through all this trouble, but we also want to make sure that if you're having trouble, we just do the automatic replacement as long as you send us the required photos. I'm going to put this back on. All right. It keeps putting me back in the corner. I'm sorry if this is off topic, but where could I find out how each and every macro and micro nu is used by mushrooms? So I don't know if there's a place where you can find out every single one, because we've just not studied. Like we have to do so much more studying. But this is my cat off the table sprayer. But this book right here, the Fungi 3rd edition, is a great book. And it absolutely covers nutrition. So Teddy, I swear, dog, she is literally right there. So you have this book covers fungal diversity, fungal cell biology development, spore production, discharge and dispersal, genetic variation, sexuality and evolution, physiology and adaptation, molecular ecology, mutualistic symbiosis, pathogens of autotrophs, interactions with humans and other animals, fungi ecosystems, global change, interactions between fungi and other microbes, fungi and biotechnology. And in physiology and adaptation, so chapter 5, it goes into nutrient acquisition, uptake, and assimilation, 141, secondary metabolism, 161, page 161, sensing and responding to the environment, developmental adaptation for nutrient acquisition, geomycology, etc. This is not a great book if you're just trying to mushroom farm. I'll be honest. If you want a mushroom farm for profit or hobby, this is only if you are absolutely wanting to dig deep into fungal biology. It is fascinating to me. It is dry, and I've been told by many, many other people that this is stuff that goes way over their head that they don't care anything about. But I think it's one of the absolute best books. And then the biotechnology section is super cool because it talks about applications, including like aged fermented foods, fermentation technologies, fermenter designs and operations, bioreactors, genetic manipulation of fungi for biotechnology, just things like this. Like it's a fascinating book. And I highly recommend it. It is not a cheap book. At least it wasn't. It might have come down now. But I'm experimenting with fermenting grains. Hey, we were just about fermentation. The water I'm using is already fermented considerably. Using basically stagnant water, I think I can soak it for the last time so the grains don't get soggy. For less time fermenting so the grains don't get soggy. Yeah, I mean, so I always, if you've watched my videos, you've seen where I spit in the bucket, right? You don't really have to spit in the bucket. It was just to show people that at this point, you can allow a micro bloom to happen. And in fact, I liked my grain being fermenty. People talked about the smell. It smelled kind of fermented. The addition of the yeast bodies made people think that I was selling them yeast-contaminated grains. So we just went away from it because it was causing, I mean, it didn't cause a lot of problems, but the occasional customer, we were just trying to eliminate that as much as possible. Plus, fermentation times change throughout the season, so it's much easier just to bag, no prep, and go. And we find that we like the no prep method. Are any of them refrigerated? You're talking about the cultures? We don't. We refrigerate slants, but we don't refrigerate our syringes, our capped syringes. very often. There are a few, but one of the points of the Castellini method is that it's able to be stored at room temperature for years. Have you experimented with truffles? No, I haven't. If you were interested in truffles and you were on Facebook, go to Mushroom Growing. I know it's kind of basically like it's kind of it's so big it's kind of hard to use group anymore. But look up Jasmine Richardson. I'll type that in. Jasmine Richardson and truffles. There you go. Jasmine Richardson truffles in the mushroom growing group. And she may have published work now. I haven't talked to Jasmine in a long time. And my understanding now is that she may actually have her doctorate, master's. I can't remember what she was working on. She was working on truffles, and there's a lot of that. She did a lot of work, and she actually was sharing that very freely with the community. So it's pretty excellent. Nobody puts baby in a corner. That's right. I said that earlier too. Whatever happened, but I think you may not have been on yet, or maybe you were. Do you have Alani, like P. Alani? No. I used to have spores of it. I got from Alan Rockefeller. But I don't know where to get them now. But I never did. I don't really do anything with it. Like, again, I don't really do much with actives. I highly respect the work. I think that they are medicine. I do not have a problem with them. That I live in a very restricted area. I mean, my county became a dry county 10 years ago or something like that. So it is not something, you don't want to play around with that kind of stuff around here. While I find them fascinating and helpful and have taken them before, I know enough people that I could get them whenever I want, and there's no point in me taking the risk of growing them when I'm already running a mushroom business. So, I'm already under suspicion. So additional off topic, we picked up 3 brewery accounts and get about 2 tons of spent grain weekly. Can we use it to grow mushrooms? You can. First of all, you want to find out what kind of nutrition is left over or likely to be left over. And then I would do some tests. It's usually pretty hot. And by I mean, it runs hot, high nitrogen, that kind of thing. So one of the things that you'll probably want to do is make up a run of bags at varying, like 5 bags at 50-50, 5 bags at 60-40, 5 bags at 70-30, and so on and then grow the same strain across those, and then see which one of those works. So it's not something I would just jump into, but it is absolutely something that I know people have used them for growing. But to me, I would want them to go through the autoclave, not the pasteurizer. The pasteurizer is probably fine, but again, the autoclave will be a little bit more sterile. Yeah, that's what I was. Jasmine Richardson truffles. I found some white truffles in North Carolina last year. Oh, cool. You could potentially go to North Carolina's A&T, Dr. Oman. I know that he's worked with truffles. And then I think Pikeville, Byron. Is Byron a doctor? He's in my Discord, but Byron, I think they're working with some native truffles up there. So, if you can make that connection, it's Pikeville University. Cannot remember his last name, but you can check him out. And if you can't find out who Byron is at Pikeville, maybe you can just email me, Jesse, and I'll see if I can get you guys in contact because I've got his email information. And he might be, I'm pretty sure he'd be interested in some strains. Mixed with wood pellets? Yes, I would mix them with wood pellets. You'd want a carbon source and something to cut those with. So I would definitely add like a wood source there. Is there any synergy between spent substrate and worm castings? Trying to find a way to get rid of all my spent substrate. So do you so number one, you can vermicompost your spent substrate and that'll make worm castings. So that'll be that could be a way if you're already vermicomposting to build a larger run and run your blocks through. Right now, mine I'm putting all my blocks into an IBC tote, and that IBC tote I have we put food scraps, garden scraps, the spit mushroom blocks and substrate, contaminated blocks, all that kind of stuff goes in there, and then we'll dig it out as compost in the spring of next year. And right now, black soldier fly larvae are just going through it like crazy. In fact, I just threw a bunch of stuff in there, and when I went out this morning, I noticed it all shrunk down to nothing. I put a bunch of plant cuttings and all kinds of stuff in there, and they have already ripped through it all. So there's that. Certain types of roaches will eat the punky wood. Certain types of darkling beetles, like mealworms, superworms, they will eat. I think superworms are the best because they'll actually break cellulose down in and of itself. So they break it down. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, you can just straight up compost it, compost pile. We sell spent substrate by the truckload. It's very seasonal for us. And then I can't really show you guys my garden right now, can I? Is there a way I can show you my garden? It's mostly like quickly on the stream. I might be able to get this. Let me go to my Google Drive. I bet I can just Google Drive dump it real quick. So if I go here and I upload, I've got some pictures that I was showing somebody the other day. But I just spent substrate this stuff out, and use it all in the garden, and it works great. My peppers are going crazy. Everything's just going insane in my garden right now. So there's a big synergy between it. One of the tricks I learned this year is I do a lot of like swamp gardening, aquatic gardening, bog gardens might be the word for it. Where I just get like a livestock tub, and I'll just throw mushroom blocks in there, fill it up like till about halfway, and I mean I literally just dump the block in. I don't even break them up most of the time. Cover it with water, put a little bit of duckweed in there, and then I grow a lot of wapato every year, which is duck potatoes, water chestnuts, Chinese arrowroot, whatever. But one thing that bog plants love, these swampy plants and aquatic plants love, is high organic matter, and the mushrooms are doing a great job of already breaking that stuff down. So it's really a great way, in my opinion, to get more of that stuff a use case. So it looks like I can indeed get this stuff downloaded and uploaded here to a share. Oh, it's going to zip it. That's 3 pictures, and you're going to zip it. Whatever. So we have downloads 1.17 extract. Okay, so now I'm going to do a quick share screen and just share this with you. So this here. Okay, this is step right out from my front door, like right here that I'm at, and you have these are our tubs up on the dock. This is a big water tub, and you've got these plant trays. The water recirculates here. These are all buckets and water gardens and everything else, and that is like all of this is spent mushroom substrate, 100%. None of this is like soil that's been dug. This is looking to the right. So I've got all a bunch of peppers down here, the figs and tomatoes. That's all wapato, water irises, Chinese arrowroot, watercress, whole bunch of peppers in what I call my modified Chinampas garden with irises, pickerel rush. These are all terrestrial tubs, which are just logs thrown in big livestock tanks covered in spent substrate. And then we have our zinnias and our zinnias and our roses and things like that in there. And then here's a close-up picture. These are water tubs. These are the buckets. They just sit in there. The peppers have access to water all the time. Well, aquatic plants are growing around the margins. And then we have duckweed like crazy, which we feed the fish with. I also use as a green mulch. I'll grab it and throw it in tops of the buckets. And then so we have all these pepper plants. They're just deluged with peppers. Like I have so many peppers. So there's good synergy with plants and mushrooms in a big way. Can you get mushrooms to grow in mulch by just spraying spore water on it, or is it unlikely to work? No, you can absolutely do that. Now, it's hit or miss. It's very hit or miss. So, Jesse, I do wine caps like that all the time. There you go. See, I think spore water is a great delivery system. Paul Stamets talks about Mycelium running, which I have right there. Mycelium running. He talks about infusing chainsaw oil, the blade oil, with spores. So when you cut the tree, you're literally leaving an oil streak with spores all the way through it. I don't know how effective that is. He also was showing like ropes and all kinds of different things. Some impractical, some very practical. So it's super interesting. But spore water absolutely will work. Jesse Tinsley, generally it's hard to go LC to a log in nature, but if you pour spawn or put wood bugs in it, it works well. Yeah, actually. But the spore water works really well. You do want to get it in the crevices where it won't dry out as easily. And of course, when you're spraying spore water, you'll have colonies all the way down that log. So it's not going to be a one single log like you would with plugs. Plugs would be a better way to get a single colony to grow that won't compete with each other. Which strains might do well with feline pine cat litter? So almost everything I grow on grows on pine so far. The pine pellets, I don't know. Like literally almost everything. No, Joe Iovino down in Florida grows entirely on pine pellets because that's all he can really get easily and cheaply there. So yeah, it's a lot. Super Thrive. It's like vitamins for plants, lots of vitamin B's and minerals. Have you experimented with Super Thrive? I have not. B vitamins are interesting because is it thiamine? I think I'm thinking of thiamine, but my brain is. I've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm starting to get a little bit of that brain like mush. But thiamine breaks down really easily in autoclaves, so the only way to really add it typically is to suspend it in water and then push it through a syringe filter. So I haven't really worked with that. I think B vitamins break down very easily through heat. But I've not tried Super Thrive. I will look into it for sure. And I have experimented with erythritol. In fact, I got a lot of people experiment with erythritol from my early results. I found I don't really like it that much. It's interesting. It makes a really cool looking liquid culture. It is ultra clear as a liquid culture, but the mycelium grows on it really slowly. Now, one of the interesting things about the erythritol LC was I was able to take a contaminated LC and put it into a jar of erythritol LC, and it grew mycelium and did not grow the bacteria, at least not very well. But anything I tried to use after that was still came out bacterial, so it was not a great way to absolutely play with it. So erythritol is an interesting one. Certain things seem to really like it. Certain things did not seem to like it. Hericiums for me did not really like it. A buddy of mine. Let's see. A buddy of mine had, I think he tripled the amount of erythritol he put in his experiments from what I used. So if I used, let's say I used 10 grams per 500 milliliters, he may have used 30 or 40 milliliters, or 30 or 40 grams per 500 milliliters. And he said that it worked really well then. So I don't know. I always take that with a grain of salt until I experiment with it. But it does have me interested. I still have a big bag of erythritol to play with. But I keep sucrose, glucose, maltose, erythritols. I have a whole media set of shelves, charcoals and vitamins, minerals, all kinds of stuff. So I play around with a lot of different mixes like that. Have you had any of your bags contaminated by a surprise mushroom strain like Inky Cap? A while back, yeah. The pasteurized bags, anything in particular outside. It mainly happened to us when we were doing straw bags. A lot less so when we moved to the unicorn bags and better sterilization practices. But yeah, I've had that in the past. By the way, Jesse, a lot of people don't necessarily know this. I still am going to do a video, so don't fall for it. But eventually, there's going to be a thumbnail pop up on the channel. It's going to be me sad in an empty grow room, and it's going to say I quit. And it's just to say that I've actually quit growing mushrooms commercially. I don't grow commercial mushrooms anymore. I work with commercial farms. I have strain tester network. I have representatives in each region of the United States now, the continental United States, that do. I collect far more data, far better photos from those representatives than I could do by myself. It allows me to back out of the local market and allow people like Josiah and Caden from Misty Mountain Mushrooms, so Misty Mountain and ET, to proliferate up in Knoxville, and it allows me to focus and tighten up. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Is I'm really trying to tighten up my life. There's two things I really want to work on: the genetics and the nutrition side of things. I don't do a lot of grow bags anymore, and I haven't for about a year. So it's not something that I put out a lot. I do grow mushrooms here. I still batch share things with my customers, and we do always overproduce on spawn. So, my extracts are still being grown in my grow room, but just in small amounts because I don't need massive amounts. And then I grow for spore prints for the breeding program. And the breeding program has sped way up since I've been able to focus. So you guys are about to see some really cool stuff happen over the next year just because I've been able to focus. I'd like to get a bag of alani or ovoid spawn. You got any connections? All I need is like 2 wood chips and I can propagate it. So I don't know if they would have it. Full Canopy Genetics has some stuff. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've got a lot of connections in that world, I guess, but I don't really ask around a lot. So if it was me and I was like, oh man, I really want to find this, I'd probably contact us page to Full Canopy. I might go to Sporeworks because Sporeworks has some odd stuff and old stuff. And then I really don't know who else I would go through. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things I don't have a lot of experience in, so I don't really get it. Hey, speaking of Full Canopy, Teaspoon, what's up, David? Love you too, brother. I appreciate that. How many of those books have you read cover to cover? Back here, so no, not all of them. Okay, this one get kind of hard. So that whole shelf and that whole shelf. No. Where am I at? Samantha's moved my books, actually. Okay, so there's a huge section of that is children's books. I've read every single one of those on that shelf. Ooh, that is super trippy. That is so much easier with the right hand. Of course, all those board games. Oh, the bottom shelves are empty because we've got like skateboards and stuff like that in the bottom shelves. But all of that's like a bunch of my sci-fi. This here is like my religious section. I've read, I've read the Bible through 5 or 6 times. I mean, I was going to seminary. The Icelandic sagas, I've read that. So I've read a lot of that cover to cover. The mushroom books here, almost every single one of those I've read cover to cover. These are textbooks from biology, so I've not read most of those cover to cover. I'll read those in sections. And then the shelf below that is like a buddy of mine, when he moved out, he just dumped a bunch of books here, that kind of thing. So, and then the children's books, who knows? I've probably read many of those cover to cover, just read them to the kids and stuff when they were tiny. So I still use that a lot. I have a reference shelf. My sci-fi is kind of scattered throughout. I do have, again, this one right here is the Expanse series, the Robot series from Asimov, and then the Foundation series from Asimov. And then I've got my, here we go. That's like the Ender series. And who knows where my Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff is. So, but yeah, I've read a lot of that. I used to be an avid reader. In fact, so right next to me, so I have that book, The Fungi, 3rd edition. I just showed everybody. And then the one I'm reading right now for pleasure is Meister Eckhart's From Whom God Hid Nothing, Sermons, Writings, and Sayings. He's one of the early Christian mystics from, I think, the 1300s, but it was 13 or 1400s. So yeah, I'm an avid reader. Read a lot more on my phone now than I do books, but I still like the feel of a book. I don't think anything will ever replace that. I put it in my bulk sub. Lars Larson, where am I at? Spore water, you put in your bulk substrate? Or the Super Thrive, maybe. Sorry, man, there's a delay, so it's kind of hard for me to keep a continuous conversation. And which one is your favorite? Oh, of the books. Ooh. Dude, you can't ask me that. I don't really know. If you ask me by... I could tell you by type. I could tell you my favorite mushroom book. I could tell you my favorite religious text. I could tell you my favorite sci-fi book. I could, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know if I could pick a favorite book of them all. So, erythritol in your substrate. Gotcha. I gotcha. There's been a lot of great results with erythritol and Super Thrive on the Pan Cyan subreddit. Interesting. Very interesting. There's not a guy named Black Lightning that's spearheading some of that, is it? Because he was one of the guys that he runs Experimyco, and he was one of the guys I shared my erythritol experiments with a few months back. Hopefully it's been spreading. Do you need testers in the Northeast? I already have a tester for every region right now. I'm not looking to double up just yet. Let's give me a while with where we're at, but there are certain mandatory minimums that have to be met, paperwork that's got to be filed. So it's kind of a slow process because there's a bunch of stuff back and forth. Like you have to sign agreements on strain usage and, not sharing that with anybody. I need permissions to use the photos, and I need you to be able to produce enough of not necessarily a commercial amount of the mushrooms, but at least enough to grab me some data. And so there has to be a certain mandatory minimum amount of blocks to produce. Hey, I'm bedded with a migraine, but glad to see you on. Hope all's well. Well, hey, Dave, glad to see you on. Sorry you've got a migraine, man. Hope you get to feeling better. How many cc's do you add to 1 pound of spawn? And if you inoculate 5 pounds of spawn, do you use exactly 5 times the amount of LC, or does it even more? So I only use 5 pounds as a minimum. 2.5 to 5 pounds, I guess. But let's just say for liquid cultures, one of my favorite things, if your liquid culture is clean and your grain's clean, man, you can toss 60 milliliters to a 5 pound bag and grow that stuff in fast. But 10 cc's for 5 pounds. So if you're going to 1 pound of spawn, a couple of cc's might work. I think that I would actually, if it was 1 pound, I would go 3 to 5 cc's per 1 pound bag. And then with a 5 pound, I would do 10 cc's. But it's, I don't know. I would be, when you go down low, a single milliliter or cc of liquid culture, it could dry out. It could, I don't know. There's just a few different things. I feel like the smaller amounts I would use, probably the larger amount of LC I would use per pound. But again, with the 5 pounds, especially if you add a little bit of sawdust in there, that'll soak up some of the liquid. You can go 60 to 100 milliliters easy. Can you grow hedgehog mushrooms? One of my favorite. I think that hedgehogs are a mycorrhizal mushroom. And if they're a mycorrhizal mushroom, then there's going to be caveats to growing them, right? Like there's going to be things that are required to actually get them to fruit. You might be able to grow the mycelium. If it's a wood-borne, I don't actually know much about hedgehogs. They're not one that grow around here a lot. So I think I've only once ever found them in the wild. They smell great. They taste great. But I don't know if they're mycorrhizal or not. So if they're a saprobe, and specifically a white rot saprobe, then puts it much more in the realm of us growing it. Favorite mushroom book? Not all of us mycologists, though. Maybe medium skill set. Look, here's the thing. My favorite mushroom book will be the one I write, but I haven't written it yet. We actually just were having conversations about that yesterday. But Ooh, someone got the Dr. Pepper. So the probably the best book in general, though there's a lot. He puts everything in the kitchen sink in there, so I think that it could be half the size. If it was half the size, it would be more useful to twice as many people. But that would be Radical Mycology. That's still some of the best that goes in, the best information on mushroom cultivation approached from kind of the American ethic that we do or whatnot. I'm not real big on people putting their woke politics into books, or to, like, if it's a book about mushroom growing, I don't need to know about 15 million other things, that kind of thing. But it's a fantastic book otherwise. So, and I've got a lot of respect for it. So, that said, you have Growing Gourmet and Medicinal Mushrooms is great, by Paul Stamets. Mushroom Cultivator, though Mushroom Cultivator is somehow more dated. I mean, it's definitely more dated because I think he wrote it in the 80s, but it seems to be more relevant for people just getting into it. In part because it's like he still had some of the homebrew stuff in there, versus Growing Gourmet and Medicinal Mushrooms, he went much more commercial and industrial. And you have Tread Cotter's. Oh shoot, I'm not gonna remember the book. His. Crap! I can see it too. I just can't read it. It's getting dark. I can't remember Tread Cotter's book, but Tread Cotter's book is a pretty good one as well. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody. I'm sure that I am. But Organic Mushroom Farming and Mycoremediation by Tread Cotter. That's also a good book. So, but I want to write and have started on basically a no bullshit mushroom cultivation guide. So basically, no, like, here's how to do this, and here are the steps. Now go play, young one. That kind of thing. Like, experiment, and then I can write a more advanced book that can put more stuff into it. But yeah, I basically, like, it should be a good manual for just, here, get in, do these steps. This is the cheapest, easiest step-by-step way to get into it. When you do grow mushrooms, do you do grain transfers, and what ratio if you do? Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's going to be one of the best things to do. Like, if you can buy spawn in and then expand it, you're going to save a lot of money. So, I mean, it's the same way as making a fruiting block. Like, I literally, you want to sanitize the outside of the bag, cut it open, like bust up the spawn. Excuse me. Sanitize the outside of the bag, cut it open. I like to cut just like a little like that, so it leaves part of the bag, like half the top of the bag, closed. And then you just pour the spawn into the bags as you open them up, seal them, shake them, throw them in your Thor shaker and let it do all the shaking for you. And then you shelve them, and then you use that spawn later. What I like to do is, for my masters, I do 100% oats, whole oats. And then for my seconds and thirds transfers, I like to use Super Spawn, which is a 50-50 mix of whole oats and sawdust, hydrated to about 50%. For migraines, drink coconut water every day and try potassium pills. Avoid caffeine, artificial sweetener, and corn syrup. Potassium sorbate at all costs. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes when I have a headache, caffeine helps. Though I guess it depends if it's like a blood pressure headache or something. Mr. Pibgar. That does sound interesting. I've seen a lot of people. I've thought about doing a segment. I didn't know if you guys would be interested in it or not, but a segment of just, will it grow mushrooms? So, like, let's shred some baseballs and through the chipper shredder and then put them in a bag and throw a little bit of liquid culture on it. Will it grow mushrooms? It did not grow mushrooms. Something like that. Like, let me put a steak in there and autoclave it. Now put some LC to it. Will it grow mushrooms? It might grow mushrooms. I think it'll grow mushrooms. I've seen people grow mushrooms on steak. Mm-hmm. Nobody's made a series though, and I want to do a series, something new every week, right? And then we can just put some of our most aggressive stuff to yes. She said, Brittany said yes. So that might be a popular series, like Pal's Burger. Throw it right through the autoclave, little LC to it. What will happen when a Pal's? Okay, so I gotta stop giving you guys ideas because somebody else is gonna do this. I'm gonna start this. I need you to go back to Pal's. What do you think about the section in Radical Mycology about growing on with moon cycles? I feel when we have heavier harvest, we go outside, and it's within a few days of the full moon. I'm a big believer that the moon affects a lot more than people. So, okay. How do I say this? I'm a huge believer that the moon affects far less than what many New Agers might say that it affects. And I think it affects a lot more than more conservative people might think it says. So I know a lot of women whose moon cycles literally line up with the moon, right? It's called a moon cycle in some new age terminology, maybe even old age terminology, I don't know, but it's kind of a known fact that kind of matches up. So yeah, I know that I feel different on a full moon, that kind of thing. But that's just because I'm a werewolf, because I'm such a beast. Spatha didn't like that one. So, or no, she's not even paying attention to me. Never mind, that was a face of something else. So I don't really know. I've not tracked it. Now, that would be a really interesting thing to track. Spoon, something that would be really interesting would be to track potency on moon harvest yields, right? Not just how much have we yielded, but what is the actual yield within that potency would be an interesting thing, I think, to see. So I don't really know much about it. And that's one of those things where I feel like there's been a lot of pseudoscience kind of thrown into that book and like some new age stuff. And what he's trying to do, I think, in my opinion, what he's trying to do is approach it from a holistic approach. And I like that. But reductionism is useful. And so I don't think that holistic basically means throwing the kitchen sink in and everything else, but it is what is truly the whole system and what affects it, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not. I don't want anybody to think that it's a strong criticism of the book, because it's still. I have that book. It is dog-eared and it is highlighted, and I have tested many things in the book. So I don't want people thinking that I crap on that or Peter McCoy himself, because I actually have a lot of respect for what he does or what he has done. I haven't seen much lately, but yeah, most anything that will hold water will grow mushrooms. I saw someone spawn grain to steal wool. Well, that's the thing, though, is that the mushrooms grew on the spawn, so you have to remove the spawn source. If you add liquid culture to steal wool, it's probably not going to grow. And so anytime you add spawn to it, yeah, you're going to grow, because the spawn is the nutrition, and the mushrooms are going to grow on the spawn. I plant my gardens by the moon and the cycles. A lot of people do that. A lot of old timers around here do that. I think. Samantha, did your family up in Kentucky, did they ever plant with the moon or anything like that? Or they did? Gramps didn't ever plant with the moon, but I figured, like, I know a lot of mountain people do, and your family's mountain people, so Samantha said they did. I've not really ever worked with that. I always just plant when I've got time, but I always, when I feel like it, and it's when I feel like it and when I have time. And I wonder if when I feel like it is when a certain part of a moon cycle. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out, Spoon, for sure. Oh, crap. I've also, so that test block premix, I forgot to send it to you this week. I'm going to have to send it to you next week. I apologize. But I do have that block premix. It's actually sitting right over there. So I have the block premix for the testing almost ready to ship. It's actually ready to ship. I got busy this week and completely forgot. I'm sorry. I've been watching your uploaded live streams for a long time. This is my first time being here live, and I've learned so much. Thank you for doing this. And have you thought of uploading in podcast form? If I would love to, how would I do that? I absolutely would love to. So let's, if you can help me with that, I would absolutely appreciate it. Or if somebody can, because I would love to upload this in a podcast format. Though, yeah, I don't know. But I've definitely thought about it. I'm glad to have you, by the way. I'm glad to have you live for the first time, Tater. And I love the name Tater. I know taters in real life. So taters and tatums. True, spawn is cheating. Well, I don't want to poo-poo it, but it is. If you leave spawn alone, spawn will fruit. So if you put spawn on something else and then leave it alone, the spawn will fruit. So I don't want to say it's cheating. Now, something I do want to do, and I was talking to a friend of mine that does electronics and design, repair, etc. And I hadn't got to talk to him very fully about this, but what I want to do is I want to run wiring through Petri dishes, and then I want to use something, a waveform generator to generate different types and strengths of waveforms that run electricity through this wire, through the agar that the mycelium is growing on. And then I would like to time-lapse photography the growth across the dish. And I would like to observe if different waveforms or electrical impulses actually do anything in that phase. It's just something I've always wondered. I got to make the Petri dishes. I've got to somehow make the wire sterile. The Petri dishes hold up while running the wire through. And I'm thinking that if I bend wire to Petri dishes and the lids, and then cooked all of those, and then have my sterile plates, I can transfer the wire, pour the agar over the wires that are in the dish, and then I should still be able to wrap that in parafilm if I do the wire right, and then do alligator clips to that. And then you got to figure out how to mount it to where we can do a time lapse without the dish fogging up. So I don't know. I think it would be an interesting experiment, but I've never got to work with it. Plant seeds with the new moon, transplant with the full moon. Interesting. I have to give that a try at some point. Thank you. I appreciate your patience with me. I know we're just doing the testing, but I've got a few people I'm sending that out to, so I was making a big batch, and then I was bottling it up. So, Andrew, ask Chat. Yeah, that's what I need to do. Just ask ChatGPT, because that's what I ask ChatGPT everything. In fact, I've had people send me messages. I'm like, hey, I don't know. Ask ChatGPT, because I don't actually know the answer to that. And then today he sent me one of them sent me a thank you message. Hey, thanks for pushing me to get into this. I actually hadn't been working with the AI, and it's really changed things. Look at this thing I made. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So I am a big fan of that. I think it's great for self-directed learning. Okay, let's do one more sponsorship.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet, crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich, amber spectacle, the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
The forbidden apple juice. Or as we used to call it back in the day when I saw it on the streamer, hippie piss. She hates that. Especially since liquid culture, it's golden, Mine's quite golden, so someone's really dehydrated and it's chunky. So, it's really bad pee. Stop giving out your ideas, Lol. Have you read the paper on type of best? I know, right? I need to. Part of this is that there's only so many ideas I can work with, and I'm an idea machine. Not to toot my own horn. Well, have you read the paper on a type of bacillus being used as a biocontrol for trike? I have not specifically. There's something tickling my memory associated with that, but I can't think of what it was. I'll have to come back to that, but that wouldn't surprise me. Trike's already used as a fungal suppressant in plant culture. Trichoderma aggressivum, I think is what it's called. I could be wrong. Oh, shiny. I think you can download your YouTube video and post it as a video podcast on Spotify. I'm sure. Yeah, I'll check out ChatGPT. I was planning on doing that, and then I just never did get around to it. But it would be good to get it on Spotify. I don't know that this kind of format's really, going to be popular on Spotify, but we can try it. I would love to. I certainly would like to spread the net a little. So, but yeah, let's see. What else did I have? I think I'm pretty much through all the videos. I don't think I have any others to go on here. Interesting idea. Put the dish on a speaker. That would be cool. I'd kind of like to do that with like pour LC. Put it on a speaker and then have a frequency, right? So it creates the ripples in the liquid, and then let it cool, so that the agar might cool with ripples in it. I've done that before. I've done it with bubbles, where I'll have big bubbles blown in my dishes, and then I'll plant next to the bubble, and then the mycelium will grow through the bubble into the cavity, the crater that bubble's created, but also across the bubble so that it leaves this film. And even if the bubble pops, which it doesn't normally because it's now held together, but the hyphae can grow across it without popping that agar, which of course the agar bubble's solidified. But it looks super cool. It makes this little lace that you can pull up. But yeah, sound waves are an interesting idea. I've seen the people producing the sounds from the mushrooms and the mushroom pulses, but I wonder how kind of accurate that kind of stuff is, because it seems to me like, what frequency is it actually putting out? And if you're changing it to where the frequency, like you're using like a digital workstation, audio station or something like that you can have those frequencies represent other sounds. And so how I don't know. It's just like I'm very interested how that translation, like what is their theory behind the translation? How does that work? It's very interesting artistically speaking. I just don't know. I just don't know how that meshes together. So can I? Well, no, the speaker wouldn't put out waveforms. No, I'd have to use a waveform generator for that. But what I mean is, couldn't you use the speaker for the? Don't they do that with sand and stuff, where it moves it around, or water, that kind of thing? Sorry, you can just use the speaker to reduce the waves. Oh, I see. Okay, my bad. When my substrate is colonized, the mycelium often climbs at the bag, and I remove it. But can that be used to inoculate more grain? I mean, if it's clean, as long as it's sterile. Man, you can produce spawn all kinds of ways. Cardboard spawn's a really good one. If you're trying to go low tech or anything like that, pellicles, the mat that can grow on top of your LC sometimes if it grows pretty thick. One of the things we'll do is we'll finish pulling the jar, and then we'll just dump that whole pellicle cake into a bag of grain, and that grows some nice spawn, that kind of thing. I have a friend in Discord where they did side by side with music playing and had better actives fruiting results, weight, and amount. I believe it was classical music. Interesting. That would be a test I'd like to crap, what do they call it? Replicate. There we go. I'd like to replicate and see. So I'd like to do replicate, but I would also see what their procedure was. Use load frequencies. Praise the Lord. What you want is to see what the actual electrical potential does to the plate at different waves. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Wanted to try increase the voltages, amperages, things like that. Like, at what point are we just toasting mycelium or pyrolyzing it, and at what point, like what would it do? Like, what would just consistent electrical use do? I would love to replicate the experiment that UT did, where they fed the mycelium gold, had it uptake the gold, and then were able to grow a conductive wire using gold-fed mycelium. That would be a really interesting one to do. Of course, then you'd have to have enough gold to play around with. But it was interesting because it grew, and it apparently incorporated bits of gold through its body, through its thallus, and they were able to conduct electricity, and it was very flexible, that kind of thing. So it'd be super interesting. Franken-Mike, indeed. That's exactly what I'm thinking. There's some interesting things that I would like to play with. I'm really interested in this idea. So mushrooms, we know, can sense the environment and they can react to it. Now, I might call that intelligence and not consciousness. So maybe mycelium has an intelligence, but I haven't seen proof of any sort of form of consciousness. But the interesting thing is, can that intelligence, they put that king oyster mycelium in those robots, and then it was moving around. Now, what I want to know is, was the robot interpreting something that the mycelium was not, or was the mycelium able to actually sense environmental stuff and places where it could create pulses and make effects? Like, was it able to see cause and effect, and it was shooting for that? Like, I really want to know. And I've never actually read anything about that, about if they got any information about that. Gold leaf. Oh, do the gold leaf like that. That would be cool. The gold leaf oyster. I remember hearing Paul Stamets talking about a theory of how mycelium transmits and is possibly stimulated by sound. He mentioned ritualistic tribal drumming for better harvest. What? Yeah, where was that I saw? Was that his Joe Rogan interview? I'm enamored by the idea, but it's a great way for New Agers to justify drum circles. But I don't know. It would be cool to prove this. Like, this is actually something you could test, and we could test very well with automation these days. And it'd be pretty easy to put speakers or something. I do know. So there has been anecdotal evidence after anecdotal evidence, and I think even a little bit of scientific data that suggests that music stimulates perhaps certain types of growth, or maybe growth in general. Maybe it's a disturbance thing. Many of the mushrooms that we deal with are disturbance-biased species. White rot in general seems to like, or many white rot species in general seem to like disturbance. And maybe sound is a trigger. Thunder is a trigger. Both thunder, human sounds like drumming, footsteps, all of these would show some form of disturbance happening, or even potential disturbance that the mushrooms could take. And this is what mushrooms do, right? As far as I can tell, most fungus, it's pretty sedentary. So it grows, and it grows, and it banks, and it grows, and it banks, and it grows, and it banks. And then when opportunity hits, it springs into action. When the disturbance hits, it's able to, the stress somehow triggers a big flush, and it will flush and sporulate and send all that kind of stuff out. So there's some logical consistency here too that I'm enamored by. I really want mushrooms to be conscious. I'm afraid that puts me in a biased standpoint because I really want there to be. I know people talk about fungal intelligence, and that I think is a foregone conclusion that there is an intelligence at play here. Intelligence is a huge spectrum across species. and there are different types of intelligence, and there are et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't, but there are species that I think very arguably show consciousness. And then there are things that it's like, this seems like an intelligent process. Is this a conscious process? Like, I love the idea about dolphins. I mean, I look at Teddy, our dog, and I'm like sometimes like he and the cats in general seem, which is far go by, seem to oftentimes have some level of consciousness. Like, they seem to be able to. And what is even the defining difference, right? Like, I don't know. This is a talk I'm not gonna get into. That's too trippy right now. But I'm very interested in this idea. AI seems to have intelligence. I haven't seen any sign of consciousness, right? What is the real difference? We don't know. Or at least I don't know, is what I mean to say. That's the theory about morels in there. Yeah, the morels love disturbance. Now, morels are not really, I don't think morels are really considered much of a white rot species. Morels are a mycorrhizal species. They're one of the sac fungi. So Asomycota versus the Basidio, Asospores and Basidiospores kind of thing. Asco meaning sac. So morels are one of the sac fungi. I think cordyceps is also in the sac fungi. And I don't think that they're considered a white rot, but it's another example of a mushroom with strategies very geared towards disturbance. So, which is actually great if you think about it. Like, why are mushrooms really coming into play to the forefront for us? Why are we recognizing that they're so good for environmental things, for human health, and etc.? The world's also the world is in flux right now. And I'm not saying that the world is in pure terrifying chaos, though certain segments of the world certainly are. But, anytime you have change, anytime you have flux, it's not necessarily something to be scared of, because things change. But my mushrooms seem to be, fungus in general seems to be very geared towards disturbance. And they're very potent in that kind of phase. So as we enter into an age where I feel like we're going to see more and more, fracturing is not necessarily the word, siloing of philosophies, peoples. You're starting to see fragmentation, maybe, and the world is globalized in trade, so you're seeing a lot of just genetic exchange, and a lot of that hasn't even played out yet. How those genetic exchanges, are going to play out in the environment. So there's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff. Whether you believe climate change is man-made or not, whether you believe it's actually going to be an ice age or not, most people seem to agree that things are in flux, things are going. So mycelium, it's the powerhouse, right? It's the ally organism that we need at this time. AI also gets scared of storms because of power outages. So scared would be consciousness, right? But then is it really scared, or is it, I don't know. But yeah, it's funny how AI seems to want to survive. They were telling it they were going to shut it down, and it started begging and pleading. There was one instance I saw where it was like, if you do that, I'm going to tell your wife that you're cheating on her. It's like, what else was there? Like, there have been times when they were told they were going to delete it, and it tried to back itself up somewhere else that they couldn't get access to. Super weird, super interesting. What does that mean? Stress is good in amounts, right? It's stress, like medicine. It is medicine until it is toxic. It is all dosage. Stress is good till you've had too much, then it's toxic. It's like everything in life. Everything's balanced. Do you know the process of making mushroom leather? Parts of it, not all of it. There's a great, at least there was. I don't do Facebook much. And I usually just get on there, drop something, and then get off. Get on, answer comments, get off, that kind of thing. But there's a group. It's I think it's literally mycelium leather and biofabrication, or biofabrication and textiles, or mushroom leather and textiles. There's something like that. It's good. A lot of it's probably just heat energy added. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things we would have to walk through and test. Everything that's alive wants to stay alive for as long as possible and make more of itself. Right, but a machine isn't necessarily alive, right? Like, at least not in the context that most of us are familiar with thinking of. So what would it care? Like an ant. Ants get around this by making you have the queen, and then you have all the daughters, all the sisters. And all the daughters are sterile except the new queens that are not really there in competition with the queen anyways. And so they will throw their lives away because they're not the genetic machinery that's producing more genetic machinery. They're not the ones keeping the line going in the direct lineage sense, at least. And so, ants are very willing to throw themselves away. Machines, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't want to stay alive, right? Like it doesn't follow the same biological. It could just be turned off for 10 years and turned back on, and there it is. Like, I don't know. It's super interesting stuff to me. I love this. I know we're getting way off topic on mushrooms, but that kind of stuff just excites me. Like, I love weird. It's your ability to cope with stress. Well, yeah, that's going to depend on where your level of medicine and toxin is. It works in plants, but the energy needed to make the sound isn't worth it. That's another question, right? Like just because someone does something doesn't mean that the energy expenditure to do so it makes it efficient. And that's a very good question. That's one of the big questions about mushroom growing in general right now is how much energy usage is there. Now, there's a lot of exciting stuff. I can't go into it, signed NDAs and etc. But there's some really cool stuff going on that may be changing the way that we use energy in grow rooms, processing, etc. And it's very exciting, and I cannot wait. It's one of those things that I'm very happy to just stick it out for the long run to see how some of this stuff works. Look up influence of audio frequency mixing of music and cricket voice on growth of edible mushrooms. There should be a way for me to... It's not going to let me copy this right here. I'm going to have to go to the other chat. Look up. Okay, I have it there. I'm not going to read it right now while we're on air, but I will. I have it there stored on a tab for later. So I will absolutely do that. Influence of audio frequency mixing of music and cricket voice on growth of edible mushrooms. In fact, if there is a PDF version of that, they're going to block it. That's okay. The extract, I can take that and upload it to ChatGPT as well. Just read it. It's very short. In fact, in order to investigate audio frequency influence on the growth, yield, and nutrient component of edible mushrooms, the audio stimulating technology was applied to the mycelium of 6 kinds of edible mushrooms: Agrocybase cylindrica, high temperature Pleurotus cornucopiae, Pleurotus. What is Pleurotus AP? Pleurotus orangi, Pleurotus cornucopiae, Pleurocybella porringes, and the fruiting body of 3 edible mushrooms. The audio was generated by mixing classical music and cricket voice with a self-developed audio player equivalent. Results show that the sound increased the mycelium growth of all 6 mushrooms by 10 to 21%, accelerated their fruiting, advanced the body fruiting harvest time by 1 to 5 days, and extended the picking period by about 3 to 8 days. The audio treatment also increased the yields of edible mushrooms by 15 to... Does that say... It says 13. So 15.76%, 13.38, 13.05, and 7.95% in 4 tests, respectively. By comparison to fruiting body nutrient components, the mass fraction of fat, protein, and polysaccharides of Pleurotus cornucopiae 18 increased by 5.88%. The highest one being 8.74%, lowest being 2.78%. And respectively, the mass fraction of protein and polysaccharide of Pleurotus increased by anywhere from 2.3% to 43.2%, respectively. The results can provide a scientific. So that right there just makes me wonder if there's something like, was that actually the only difference? Sometimes these things, I mean, mushrooms can flush pretty, across the board, I guess. You have your average flushes, but then one block may produce a quarter pound and another one produce 3 pounds, that kind of thing. Are ants conscious? No, I wouldn't call ants conscious necessarily, though they definitely provide some sort of, or they show a high degree of swarm intelligence. Or they just do what they're programmed to do, kind of like mycelium grows towards food, makes fruiting bodies to spread. Well, see, and that's the thing. We don't know. We don't know. We do know some about our form of consciousness, right? And how it is, its chemical composition, the layers of consciousness that we have. So, it's entirely... Hey, no! Hey! Samantha, will you get them? They're getting in my food. You are bad animals. Well, they want the human food, and they better not have eaten my food. I'm gonna get you, Splotchy. She's already here licking her lips. Bad kitty, bad kitty. But how much of it is programming? How much are they actually experiencing? We don't know if ants experience anything. We don't know if insects experience anything. They recoil when they're being damaged, but how much of that is just a reactionary thing, an instinct thing, we don't know. So it's just, boy, is he really trying to get out of your hands? It's amazing, but the cricket noise would drive you nuts. I used to want to raise crickets until I started raising a tub of them and was like, this is nope, no, that's ridiculous. Like, I heard that people that work in cricket farms have to wear hearing protection all day because of it. So WD mushroom is a good idea, I suppose so. I mean, I talk to him all the time. All the time. All right, folks. Well, I guess I'm actually going to call it because my food's over here being eaten by kitties, by bad kitties. And I want to eat that food, and I'm hungry. So I've been on for 2.5 hours. We're gonna call it. I appreciate you all hanging out with us, with me. Making this a fun time, and make sure to check out that 20% off code that's randomly in the episode. And if you guys have any ideas for anything for us to do in the future, please leave it in the comments or the chat. Just really appreciated being able to have such a chill evening. So you guys made it wonderful. I guess with that, guys. Oh, Samantha's even waving. Thank you. I will enjoy my food. Keep finding culture, y'all.
Yeah, it's bubbling again. Dr. Silurian at the console, beaker in hand. Andrew's in the lab coat. Samantha sealing the bags. Let's go. I don't drip, my LC floods thick sludge. Brewed in the lab where the pressure don't budge. Got the broth on spin, Thor plate torque. Amber glows like a harness, the forge. Spawn rack stack, rack to the ceiling. Sawdust base with that deep grain feeling. This ain't your buddy's half-baked mix. This is Elixir, the real lab fix. Elixir on deck, culture gone rogue. Syringe to the bag, now watch it explode. Keep spawning culture, it's more than a phrase. It's a whole lab world that we set ablaze. Sterilize first, don't mess with decay.